Yeah. Yes, shalom.
Shalom.
All right, we are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. I am Officer Makakwa. All right, and today we're going to be getting in, as usual, a little history. All right, today is Monday night. We're going to be doing a little history. We're going to get into the history a little more biblically. All right, and we'll touch, right, a little bit on some local history. All right, we might be going in, if time allow, a little bit today in the Syrians, right, because we had already covered the East Indians, you know, being over us within our captivity. All right, also the Chinese, and what we'll be doing today is going into the Syrians, right, and we'll tie it with a couple of other stuff, right, because it's high time that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man know who they are as a race of people. Also, it is important that the so-called black man knows who are his enemies, according to the scriptures, right? When we say enemies, those that plan together as a people to fight against the Lord's chosen people, the children of Israel. Right. All right, so as we looking to get into it, somebody give me Matthew chapter 10 and verse 34. All right, because we have been taught many a times by the Christian church that have been pushed to send peace upon the earth. So he's making you understand his purpose. All right, read on.
I came not to send peace, but a sword.
But a what?
A sword.
So peace upon the earth, but a sword. And we're going to hear what the scriptures are saying concerning this sword. What is the purpose of this sword? What does this sword symbolize? Read on.
For I am come to set a man at variance against his father.
Right? So he's saying he's coming to set a man at variance against his father. Read on.
And the daughter against her mother.
And the daughter is going to be against the mother. So now when you look at it, the teachings that Christ is going to come with is going to cause discord.
Right.
It's not going to cause peace. It's not going to make everybody come as one. As the Christians say, God loves everybody. That is not according to the scriptures. Read on.
And the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
And the what?
The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
And even the daughter-in-law is going to be against her mother-in-law. Read on.
And a man's foe shall be they of his own household.
And a man's foe. The battle that they're going to have, where that main struggle is going to come from, it is going to come according to the scriptures.
Right.
All right? Because what is taking place here, when you walk along the entire life as a Gentile, not knowing that you are Israelite, a so-called black man, Native Indian man, or Hispanic man, you're not knowing you are Israelite, you're walking and living as a Gentile. And then you hear the priests and prophets of the I.S.U.P.K teach these scriptures, then you start realizing your history and you start realizing who you are according to the Bible. What is going to happen? You're going to decide now, I'm not celebrating Christmas anymore. Right? I'm no longer going to be a whore. I'm no longer going to sleep with women and put them away.
Right.
So you're going to become a responsible man. You're no longer going to be taking abortions in every abortion clinic in the city. You're no longer going to murder your brother. You're no longer going to smoke weed, eat pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp.
Right.
Now, by you making these decisions, as is taught by our King Yahawashi or by Christ, what is going to happen? Now, your own family, in your own household, now is going to be set against you. Because what has happened over time, not knowing our his culture, what they might be set in, they might be set in what we locally say your old ways, which is the ways of the white man,
Right.
which is the ways of the people that have oppressed us.
Right.
They have taught you murder. They have taught you rape. They have taught you child molestation. How was these things implanted in you? During slavery, within the plantation.
Right.
You were in bondage, in chains, and were whipped. And what they did? Rape men, rape women, molest children, take babies and beat them against stones. And all this evil that have been, the so-called black man have passed through, this now have become a part of black culture. Because of the so-called white man, and you no longer understanding and knowing your heritage, your culture, and your history.
Right.
All right? And even locally in Trinidad, when these other races fled persecution, even from the same so-called oppressor, Salakia, from the oppressor, what they did when they came across to Trinidad, to Jamaica, to the Caribbean islands, to the Americas, to the South Americas, with the native Indians, what they did? They helped the white man to bring even more burdens. They forward our affliction. And that is what we must understand that the Bible is speaking about.
Right.
All right? And now, where we sit now, the heathen now is boasting how rich they are, how wealthy they are, how prosperous they are, because they have built their entire economy over the backs of the so-called black man.
Right.
And it's only when they are in pain, only when they are in distress, that the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man is getting a break or a rest.
Right.
And that is what is taking place right now, thanks to that is what's taking place right now. The Most High have sent the coronavirus. And if anybody use any common sense, when they are in pain, you are in rest. And that is what you must understand. Now, when everything is smooth with the oppressor, there is more distress to you, more abortions, because right now the abortions clinic closed. So the Most High is showing mercy on the babies and the so-called blacks, native Indian, and Hispanics. Right. Because right now the abortion clinics are closed. And because it is closed, some of the children that were supposed to be born, Salakia, that was supposed to be killed, have a chance to have life.
Right.
Because the oppressor is busy right now fighting with the coronavirus. And we must give the Most High all the thanks that this virus have come not to destroy the so-called black man, but for our oppressors, for the things that they have done against us.
Right.
All right? Play the video from with the Syrians. So now what we're going to do, we're going to touch a little bit on the Syrians, all right? The East Indians, the Chinese, and the Syrians are three of our main oppressors locally in the Caribbean and also in Trinidad. Also the Africans, but the Africans is in our least number because the so-called black man must know that he's not an African. Right. He's a dark-skinned race of people, but he's not an African. All right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, this morning has been one full of one-man protests. One man staged a protest outside rituals on Marabou Road in response to comments made by members of the Sabga Abuse family on
right, so this news clip in here, right, Trinidad News, a man staged a one-man protest because the way that the heathen have established themselves, there's hardly anyone that is brave enough to try even to protest, right, which will have no fruits at the end of it, but to even protest against oppression. All right, clear.
Anthony Bourdain's parts unknown. The protest comes after several expressed their disapproval of the comments made on the show on social media. Peter Christopher tells us more in this report.
Actually, we are the smallest ethnic group in Trinidad.
So what is taking place here? The Syrians are saying we are the smallest ethnic group within Trinidad. All right, and now you're going to see the pride of the heathen. All right, play on.
And we know it.
Right, so now they are saying we are the smallest ethnic group within Trinidad, but we are the most powerful. And the bragging, the proud. So now they have fled from persecution from the white man, came across to Trinidad and oppressed another race to make it. And they're proud about that. And what they're doing here is having a tea party or dinner or whatever they're having and boasting. And this video clip came out in the public and it caused an uproar within the Trinidad community on Facebook and so forth. But who was able to stand against the 1%? No one. Play on.
Right. Trinidad life is very good, but
he said life is very good.
Concerned with the fact that at one time we used to have a huge middle class, which was a sort of a security in terms of any possible conflict between the haves and the have-not.
Right. Pause it again. So the meeting they're having here, they say they're having a huge conflict now. So they're afraid right now because something changing up. It used to have a middle class, but it's having a bigger gap now between the haves and the haves not. So now, if you in past times are fooling yourself and tell yourself is one love, everybody pumping on the same page, the gap widening now, things being exposed as the scriptures prophesied. All right? Now the Syrians now is to the top, the heathen is to the top, and having a big gap. So now, when they're seeing this gap, they know what's going to happen. The so-called black man, they want to revolt. Right. Better conditions, better salaries, better wages, and so forth, better medical conditions. So their job is to give you the illusion that here what happened. I live in. I have a house and I have a car. You will study your brothers, you will study your sisters and them in need from your own race. All you concern about, as with a Christian mind, is about yourself. Thank God I made it. Right. They, on the other hand, are concerned about their race and about their people. Right. That is what the so-called black man must understand. Clear?
So now that's eroding and they getting poorer. So they started to get angry.
These comments on CNN's travel and food series, Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, has seen many social media posts criticizing the outlook of the Sapga family. But on Tuesday, one man came off the internet and set up a demonstration outside Richard's Coffee House on Marva.
So now, at the end of these things that were spoken by the Syrians, one man set up a protest outside one of the Syrians' business places. Because nobody dare not try anything against the Syrians, because as they said, we are the most powerful ethnic group within the country. Right. All right, and that's what we must understand. All right. Play on.
Road. Ian Raphael Isidore Smart called for those walking by to boycott the franchise, which is owned by Mario Sapga Food.
And they have the audacity, the 1%, to go up on TV and talk about how they are the most powerful ethnic group in Trinidad and Tobago. What I meant today to say that the most powerful ethnic group in Trinidad and Tobago is we the people, we the ones that have the ability to vote and elect real change.
Right, and now he's saying, we are the most powerful, they have nots, because we have the ability to vote. And the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man, not understanding the culture, not understanding the heritage and the laws, what is happening? We thinking that we have power through voting. And that is a deception according to the scriptures. Right. Because according to the scriptures, we are not to be voting. We are not to set up other races above us, the so-called black man. All right? We must have a ruling system and a ruler or a king that is of our people. Right? And we need to understand these things. It is high time. Play on.
Not fake change. They think that they're the most powerful. That is not true. We are the most powerful. We come together.
Mr. Smart took special offense to the claim that the middle class served as a security blanket for the 1%, especially as that group has contributed to the economic inequality of the country, in his opinion.
But you know, today, I look at the joy of us really have nots. To go up against 1%.
All right, put it right. And that is what the so-called black man must understand. He is saying that he willing now to join up with the have-nots. All right? And what we must understand is that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, the have-nots, must join up with the I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
Must join up with YAHANNA, which is Christ.
Right.
Because our way of deliverance is according to the scriptures. Because we are the have-nots, right? But the Most High is saying something to us. Somebody give me Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. Right? How we are to come out of this captivity, or have prophesied what will take place to the heathen nations when we gather ourselves together, as in Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. All right, somebody give me Revelation 2 and verse 9.
Book of Revelation, chapter 2 and verse 9. I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty,
right?
But thou art rich.
So the Most High is saying to the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, he knows our works. He knows our tribulation. The black man goes out and labors, mixing cement, working 9 to 5s, and hustling whichever way to survive, to feed the family, right? And while you working to feed your family, you producing millions and billions of dollars for the other nations. So he is saying he knows our work, he knows our tribulation, and he knows our poverty, but we are rich, you know?
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not.
And he knows the blasphemy of them that say they are the Jews but are not. And these are the fake Jews that we see with the big black cape and the magician hat, right, over in Jerusalem. They are the fake Jews. They say they are the Jews, but they are not the Jews. And what is taking place now, all these other nations is following the setup of the so-called white man or the oppressor.
Right.
The success of the nations depends on following the economic and the moral standards of the so-called of the white man. And that is what we must understand. So the more they cleave to the oppressor, is the more that they're going to be established on the earth. And that is what these nations, for example, the Sabbaths, have understood. All right, read on.
But are the synagogue of Satan.
But the scriptures is saying they are the chief house, the synagogue, the chief house of Satan. Everything ungodly. Read on.
Verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer.
That was verse 10?
Yeah,
sorry, Salakia, verse 9?
Verse
all right, verse 9, right. So drop that and give me the introduction of the article with the Sabbaths, right? Because the Sabbaths are the ruling ethnic group within the country, all right? So pull up that article, let me just run through. Let's do it up from Torah.
Syrian Lebanese.
Yeah, that's the imparted introduction. Yeah, open up the whole thing. All right. Right, and what we're going to be seeing here, right, is an introduction to the Syrian and Lebanese presence in Trinidad and Tobago, right? What we must understand, right, is the history of these Hellenic nations coming into Trinidad, because they're going to make you to understand your scriptures, that we are not all one people.
Right.
Right? We didn't come here with the same intention or the same goal. We were captured, we were kidnapped, we were brought here as slaves. We came here and was oppressed by the white man and by Hellenic nations, right? So I want to read the article here. The last group of immigrants to venture to colonial Trinidad originated in the region previously known as Greater Syria, which comprises of present-day Iraq, Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, right? Many of the Lebanese hailed from the villages of YAHANNA and Amion, while the Syrians came from villages in the valley of the Christians, right? Because during the time that the Syrians started coming across to Trinidad, they was under religious persecution. And I think this article also will bring it up, right? Running from the Muslims, right? Because some of the Syrians were Christians. I think it was a lesser percentage, perhaps about 20%, right? It have a more in-depth teaching specifically with the Sabbaths right, by our camp leader, Officer Galawan. I don't know if you can probably send that in that link in the chat if you have it. And we'll put that up in the chat. So anybody want to get more history dealing specifically with the SABDAs will be able to watch the video that was told by our camp leader, Officer Galawan. All right. Yeah, I need to come down from all over. These Arabs immigrated to the Caribbean from as early as 1904 in an attempt to escape religious persecution and economic hardship in their native countries. So when you look at this, right, even the other classes that were brought out, the other history classes, right, you're going to see a pattern. You're going to see that the East Indians ran from oppression from the white man when he destroyed their economy, when the British destroyed their economy. The Chinese did the same thing, and now even the Syrians came across to Trinidad, running away from persecution. So now this should put an end and a stop to anybody having the audacity to say, and hear what, these Venezuelans, they shouldn't be across in Trinidad, right? Because we have shown in classes numerous times that even these Venezuelans, which is from the tribe of Asha, right? The chosen of the Most High, they were in Trinidad before all these heathen nations started coming across here, fleeing from the very same thing that the Venezuelans are running from right now, which is persecution from the oppressor.
Right.
Because the Muslim is also a branch or an arm of Christianity.
Right.
All right. Trinidad, go up some more. Trinidad thriving economy. Right, so like, I'm gonna come to the top. Right, in an attempt to escape religious persecution and economic hardship in their native countries. Trinidad's thriving economy, political stability, and pristine environment proved to be the ideal location where these displaced Arabs could establish new lives. So even listen carefully to this. The so-called black man have been building and developing this country, but they have no economic power. So now the Syrians to team up with the Chinese and even the East Indians realize, boy, this here is a prime place for me to start developing, right, and growing my nation and also my family. All right. Slovakia, at their arrival, they were virtually penniless. Right now, this is what this article says. I'm going to bring on something with this. At their arrival, they were virtually penniless. However, they have managed to achieve phenomenal economic success. Now, this why I just read here. I read this for purposes to show you the deception, right, at the hidden, to make themselves look so what we call it again, not studious, but Slovakia.
Glorious.
Yeah, for them to look glorious. That is the pride. To show how good we is, how great we is. We ain't come here with no money. You understand? But watch how big we make it. But you're going to see something in the same article that they said. All right. And even Officer Galawan had brought out a lot of the businesses that these Syrians ran, right, were whorehouses.
Right.
That is the culture of these heathen nations. They ran whorehouses and so forth, what they call brothels, right? And they built wealth off of these ungodly practices.
Right.
All right? And presenting themselves a different way on the internet. And that's why you have to be careful about when you're doing research and so forth. What you're reading, you need to be taught. And that is why we say get into the I.S.U.P.K. under commanding General YAHANNA to all the so-called blacks, Native Indians, and Hispanics. All right? Go roll up again.
Yeah.
Now, this other part of the circumstance of arrival. Initially, the first Arab settlers in Trinidad were men. They resided in boarding houses along with Marines, along Marine Square and George. So now, they didn't have no money. But what are in here? Right? They're in boarding houses. You understand? Along Marine Square and George, Duke, Duncan, and Charlotte Street. Right? That's the prime areas in Trinidad.
That's right.
Right? But higher up, they didn't come here no money. Right? George Hayab and Amin Abraham were among the first to land, averaging in 1904 to 1905 respectively. The Syrian and Lebanese men would then work to accumulate money to pay off their credit to business places, maintain families and so forth. So you're presenting them in a particular way. They work hard, right? We get credit, and what we're going to do now, we're going to send for we family as the same lower on. Some money was saved and so forth. Go up Alma. I'm just trying to cross out this article. Right? Slovakia, I'll do it. After they established themselves, they sent for their brothers and cousins, right? So things were so nice here as with the East Indians and the Chinese. What they start doing? Sending for the brothers and for the cousins. But to find the Asherites, they shouldn't be here. But they sent for their family and built an empire. Give me the next article. Yeah. The continuation of the Salakia.
The same thing, right?
Yeah.
That was the same thing.
No, we have another article.
No, the same thing you said.
Same one?
Yeah.
All right, come down again, let me see. So how much I sent for you so far?
They're two in the same thing.
Two is the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I end up sending the wrong thing. Oh, God, I can't get it off on my phone now. But anyway, but I want to skip it. I didn't know it's the same thing I sent to you twice. Yeah. Right? But anyway, I'll be bringing out here, right? These Syrians, what they did, they came across to the Trinidad region and they built a great empire of wealth. Just as they seen on the footage a while ago, right? They boasted about their wealth. All right? Give me 1 minute, Salakia. All right, yeah, look at right in the bottom here, man. This is the what? This is the. Oh, it was on the screen. All right, so I will read it from my phone here because I didn't have it up on the screen, right? Members of a family came to Trinidad following their relatives, right? The Nahoras family is a fitting example, and so forth to become among the men who had left their spouses behind would arrange for them to come to Trinidad in the 1920s and 30s, right? Many young women of Arabic descent had arrived in Port of Spain to raise families, right? So they came across here, and the plan was to do what? To raise families. The plan was not to return, because of the wealth that they could accumulate from within this Caribbean region, all right? Because the families had split into 5 and they went to different parts where the slaves were in oppression under the so-called white man, under the white man, Salakia. Usually, the men who came did not envision a future for themselves in Greater Syria, so they had no intention to return. Most had operated wool and silk factories. So what I'm bringing out here also, besides the 4 houses that I had running, that I didn't put up here, right? They had wool and silk factories functioning in Syria. But due to the oppression from the Muslim and so forth, they fled. So they didn't just come here with a bag on the back, with 2 boxers. They came here and they had access to resources, they had access to wealth. Right. All right, that's what we must understand. They traveled to the Americas, that is the western side of the world, fueled with hope for greater opportunities would be available. And they continued building their family, right, and their people on the oppression of the so-called black man. All right, and that's what we have to understand. Now, give me the video with the then Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Officer Shah.
When you go back to the history of the Syrians and everything,
right.
People and also they don't know, right? The percentage that was paid under the Ottoman Empire when they was ruling them, there was 75%.
75% tax.
75%.
They had to pay.
So they had to pay, so they always had money.
That's right.
So that's what they was running from.
But that oppression was so much to the Syrians, they decided instead of we paying that, let me dig out with the money and blow the empire out. So they was fleeing as every other heathen that ran and came across it to Trinidad. Right. And that is history that was not taught in school, because the intention of the school system is not to teach us any history, so that we will not know that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man is one race of people. Right. All right? You can go ahead and play the thing there.
A ceremonial dance.
So here now, they're having a big celebration for the Syrians, right? This celebration they're having now is to honor them for the great work. They were so great. They came here and saw so much great opportunity, but then now they did great work when the so-called black man built the entire Western Hemisphere. That's right. And that's what we have to understand. We built everything from America, from Washington, D.C., all the way down to South America. We built everything, right? And now who is getting a dance and awards? Not the so-called black man. That is why the so-called black man must understand that your deliverance is coming back with your people. Right. Not to cleave to the other nations. They don't give a damn about you. They care about themselves. Right, Leon?
in Middle Eastern tradition, but apart from their rich and diverse culture and heritage, Prime Minister Kanwal Prasad says the Syrian Lebanese community have brought from their homelands values this country should emulate.
Right. So now, this was the then Prime Minister, East Indian, Kamala Prasad, Bissessa. What she is saying, the country should emulate the values of the Syrians because they are great people. And this is just a political strategy that these East Indians is using to further climb into economic power. That is the whole strategy that the so-called then Prime Minister is using. Getting that forward because everybody wants a piece of the pie. Right. Everybody wants to go up the white man ladder, right? They will drop that and give me this last video with the blacks. Okay. Yeah. Right? This video that we're going to bring up here is just to give a basic understanding before we go into some more scriptures and the whole psychology of the system of the white man. Now, what I'm going to be bringing out in the video here is basically like speaking. But if you look at it carefully, it's going to show you a mindset that the so-called white man have placed upon the entire society. The white man have placed his spirit or poured out his spirit on all flesh. So this is the psychological mind state that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man is in today, unless you get into the I.S.U.P.K. Right. This is the mind state you're going to be in. You're going to want that you make it. And this is the mental tactic that you're going to try to use to make it. And then now, what that's going to cause you to do? That is going to cause you to reject the scriptures, to reject your culture. Because in your mind, these things in this Bible, this don't work. But what the white man have already established, this work. Because then there's no patience within you. You're grabbing for what you see. All right, play.
Can you tell what race I am just by hearing my voice?
Jump down to
correct.
Jump down to 50.
Turns out Americans are pretty good at guessing your race just by hearing your voice. It's called linguistic.
And it gets kind of into the weeds a bit.
When it comes to being on the phone, though, black people will often try to sound more white.
Yes, Mr. Ribbon, I would love to have the opportunity to sit with you to discuss some of our products.
It's a form of code switching, or in this case, alternating between two different dialects.
You trying to grab me by my collar, right? That's not.
Good morning, customer service. My name is Philip.
Right, so the showing you here, right, it might seem funny, but it's showing you now the mental perspective that the white man have placed the entire society in. Right. To be more acceptable, to make it in society, you must reject your culture. You must reject your laws. You must reject your people. Right. To be able to make it in white America, to make it under white supremacy. You must be a Christian. If you're not a Christian and following Christian doctrines and philosophies, then you can make it. All right, just as it was showing in the video. Crack it back one more time, let me play that piece again.
It's kind of into the weeds a bit.
When it comes to being on the phone, though, black people will often try to sound more white.
Yes, Mr. Ribbon, I would love to have the opportunity to sit with you to discuss some of our products.
It's a form of code switching, or in this case, alternating between two different dialects.
You trying to grab me by my collar, right? That's not.
Good morning, customer service. My name is Philip.
Right. So what we're getting into here is not just the words, but the mind state. It automatically now within society that an individual is going to notice. For me to start climbing the society, what I need to do is think like the white man. Right. Talk like the white man. Dress like the white man. You understand? Even now, they're wearing French cut suits. Because everyone needs to yield to the system that the white man have set up. All right, Leon?
Black people talking white is having a real moment in media right now. Sorry to Bother You is a movie about a black salesman. His career only takes off when he starts talking white.
Right, so it's saying here, this is a movie, right, and they have about 3, I believe, mentioned within this. A black salesman, he says are taking off when he start talking white. So now you're accepted by everyone. Play on.
You want to make some money here? Here's your white boys.
Hey, Mr. Kramer, this is Langston from Regalview.
And Black Klansman is a movie about a black detective who infiltrates the KKK by pretending to be white over the phone.
Right, and even a black man in this movie, he infiltrated the KKK by pretending to be white. So he's talking on the phone, song in white, and he started to infiltrate the KKK. Clear?
God bless white America.
The idea is to speak in what's called the standard accent.
The standard accent is the one spoken by the majority group or the socially advantaged group.
Olivia King is a psychologist at Harvard. She's working on a project that explores the hidden biases we hold.
If you speak with the standard accent, you're judged as being more intelligent, more competent, more credible, more hireable. Now having a regional accent or a non-standard accent, now you're not getting those advantages. You're seen as less credible or less hireable.
These biases are implicit. This isn't Charlottesville tiki torch racism. It's much more discreet than that.
The most basic way of understanding implicit bias is by thinking about the associations we make. If two things occur together over and over again in our experience, we link them together.
Salt and pepper, day and night, bread and butter. These types of associations are helpful, but there are some that aren't. Now, if I say the word genius, you're probably thinking of some collector's edition white dude. Now, if I say the word criminal,
voices aren't just sound.
So it is showing us psychologically already the damage that have been done to the so-called black man, right? Coming across to the Americas in this oppression under the white man, right? That one more point in it, keep playing it on.
In a lot of ways, they're auditory faces. So when you hear a voice, you can, in some sense, piece together what the person on the other end of the phone can look like, roughly how old they are, their gender, where they come from. But the interesting thing is that you can also form impressions about character. So how intelligent someone is, how competent, how likable, how trustworthy.
So now, this is the American standard that the so-called oppressor uses to make judgment. And you being destroyed, not knowing your heritage and your culture, this is how the so-called black man is going to be now consumed in white philosophy and doctrine. And this is how our judgment is made as long as you are not in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General YAHANNA. Right. You're going to hear a voice as long as someone close to white, that is a good person. Right. A man talk, that is a nice man, that is a nice woman. Because why? You're getting that white spirit behind the conversation. Right. All right? Leo.
And these impressions can be flawed, right? A lot of these things might have a basis in your implicit biases or things that you've heard, portrayals you've seen on television. And so when people are doing something like conducting a voice interview, often the implicit biases they have about voice can influence the decisions that they're making.
Every black American is bilingual. We speak street vernacular and we speak job interview.
In order to combat some of these...
Right, so a comedian here is saying two dialect speak, street vernacular, and job interview. And that is the constant battle, right, that the so-called black man has in society. As scripture in the Apocrypha says, I think we'll bring it out talking about that the heathens now are the twixt, which is the so-called white man and the so-called black man. Whoever is in power, that these nations will follow after whoever is in power. Right. Right? Because the greed, right, and the lust for power. All right. So somebody give me first 2 Corinthians 6 and 17. The book of 2 Corinthians 6 and 17. Okay. All right, and you will read that up still because it might have a piece in that time.
Okay, the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 17.
Right.
Wherefore, come out from among them,
right,
and be separate.
Right, but our records, the records of the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man is saying, do what?
Come out from among them.
So it is saying that we should come out from among the heathenic nations. Read on.
And be separate.
And do what?
And be separate.
And be separate. Christ didn't come here for us to be together, but for the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man to know his history and do what?
Be separate.
And be separate. Be separate from the mindset of our oppressors. Read on.
Can said the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing.
And do what?
And touch not the unclean thing.
And we are not to touch the unclean thing. And that unclean thing is anything that is unlawful, anything that is ungodly, anything that is not according to the records of your forefathers. Read on. All right, read on.
And I will receive you
And he will do what?
And I will receive you.
And that is how we're going to be received by the Most High power, by being separate. Because that is what the Most High requires. He requires that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man be separate.
Right.
All right? And how that separation starts? It starts by the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man knowing Christ is a black man.
Right.
By the so-called black man knowing the Jews are black.
Right.
By Solomon, chapters 1 and 5, that Solomon is a black man.
Right.
Job 30:30, Job is a black man.
Right.
That is how you start becoming separate, by learning of your culture and your heritage. But what have been pushed on the so-called black man is this image. All right? But let's put it here first. This image have been pushed on the so-called black man. All right? The image, you see it on my screen there? Yes. Yeah, it's a lot here. The image of Caesar Borgia, right? The grandson of Pope Alexander VI of Rome. This have been pushed on the so-called black man, right? Through Christianity.
Right.
To make you believe that Christ, or Yahweh in the Hebrew, is a white man. That is not according to our records. All right? And we're going to touch on that before we continue further. Somebody give me Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. All right? Because of these ideas and philosophies that are pushed on us, due now to us not being educated in our culture, what we do, we yield to all these foolishness that we see here. Pretending to be white, pretending to be African, pretending to be Egyptologist and Muslim, pretending to be Christian to fit in, to make it within society. But we must have more heart and get and grab and take hold of your culture. The way Paul have told you that the covenant, the glory, the promises, the giving of the law, and the service of God belongs to the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Right.
All right, somebody give me Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1 and 1.
Book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Right.
The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him.
Right.
To shew unto his servants.
Right. So the Most High gave a revelation unto John. And this revelation was to show unto his servants. And the servants in the scriptures are the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man.
Right.
That vision that was given to John was not given to show to everyone. This Bible is a black man's book. This is not an everybody book.
Right.
This Bible contains black culture. This is the constitution and the way, and also to show the way that the so-called black man must operate to survive, right? To escape, to dominate, to conquer this society. Read on.
Things which must shortly come to pass.
Right, to show things which must shortly come to pass. Jump down to 14.
Verse 14. His head and his hair were white like wool.
Right, so you're given a description of Christ, so that the so-called black man is going to be able to identify that this man that I am reading about within the scriptures is of my forefathers, a black man. The scriptures is saying that his head, the hairs on his head and his hairs were white as wool. Read on.
As white as snow.
As white as snow.
And his eyes were a flame of fire.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire. Read on.
And his feet like unto fine brass.
And his feet was like unto what?
Fine brass.
And the scriptures is saying that Christ's feet, in case you're confused, it's going down to show you that his feet look like what? Like fine brass. But read on.
As if they burnt in a furnace.
As if they burned in a furnace. And that is what the so-called black man must understand. Christ was a dark-skinned man. Now, some of us might be saying, hey, Christ is a dark-skinned man, so then, so what? That is important. People have a tendency to believe that color is not important. One of the most important elements of color is to make a division or separation. If I send my children and say, bring a black pants to me, they will bring a specific pants. Bring the white pants, they will bring a specific pants. Color has a purpose, which is to show separation. And what is the main separation here? To show that this imposter that the so-called oppressor have placed for the so-called of push and perpetuated to the so-called black man, it is not according to scriptures.
Right.
That is the main purpose of color in the Bible. The Jews are black. This is an imposter, Caesar Borgia. And the so-called black man must start learning his culture, his history, and understand his identity.
Right.
All right? As long as the so-called black man does not understand, right, his identity, then you will not be able to know you are a Jew.
Right.
When the priest and professor of the I.S.U.P.K tell you you are a Jew, you confuse. Because you have never known, have never read, and have never understood that the Jews, according to the Bible, are black.
Right.
And it is high time that we return to our forefathers' knowledge. All right? Not knowing who the true Jews are, we're going to end up in countless problems. Right? What you're going to be doing, you're going to be celebrating feast days that is displeasing to the Most High Power, and continually have you under this captivity and this oppression. You're going to be celebrating Christmas, which is not according to black culture. You're going to be celebrating Easter. You're going to be celebrating Halloween. You understand? Your dietary law going to be a pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp, and bats, and causing pandemics upon the earth. That is why the scripture says to us, I believe in Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy not the oppressor, and follow none of their ways.
Right.
Our job is to know our culture, so that is going to do what? It's going to separate us. We're not going to follow our oppressors. We are not going to follow any of their ways, because their ways is not according to the scriptures. Their ways is not according to the Most High Power. And to further learn this, you need to be in the I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
This is the only place that you're going to learn black culture. This is the only place you're going to learn your laws. Is in the I.S.U.P.K. under Commanding General YAHANNA. Right. He has generals, captains, officers to teach the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man, who he is according to the Bible. All your cultures, all your laws. And that is what we must understand. Right? If you don't know who you are, you're not going to have the correct moral standard. Right? You're going to be following doctrines as far as in depths in Africa. Homosexuality, marking up your flesh with all kind of big chop and big scar. You understand? Stretching your neck long like an ostrich and defiling your body in which every way. You understand? And we must understand that knowing your culture is going to bring something on the earth, is going to bring the earth, is going to come into order.
Right.
You're going to bring righteousness on the earth. You understand? And that is what the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man must understand, right? So now we're just going to touch on some history, furthermore, that our forefathers have prophesied to us. Things that is going to happen to us if we don't follow the laws of the Most High Power. Right. All right? This is going to give the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man a better idea who he is, or this is the evidence of your forefathers of who you are. So when you listen to the classes in the I.S.U.P.K, right, your spirit is going to bear witness with the spirit of the Most High. That wait now, I is a son of God. I is an Israelite. That is my bloodline. That is my family. That is my identity. All right. So somebody give me Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And then somebody go hold from Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Right, you read aloud, that's a water.
And it shall come to pass, if
Right.
thou shalt hearken.
Yes, no, slow down, read it again.
And it shall come to pass.
Right, so here Moses is saying, and it shall come to pass. All right, read on.
If thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to do and observe and to do all his commandments.
Right, if the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man observe and do all his commandments, right? And this is an era, as we see that a lot of so-called black people are caught up in. What we don't understand, we talk about the laws, And so many a times, Salak, you have a phone close by? Just open a Bible up before the Torah.
Yeah.
Right? So many a times, right, we don't understand something that is important, right? We don't understand when we hear about the laws of God, right? We tend to think about Moses, right? But if you get into the I.S.U.P.K, right, and are taught by the real priests and prophets, you're going to understand that these laws came all the way from Adam.
Right.
And it is high time that the so-called black man get out of these Christian churches with these fairy tales and start reading your Bible. Because according to the scriptures, right, sin is the transgression of the law. So to sin, you must break the laws of God. Now, Moses was the one that instituted the law or reinstituted the law when we came out from Egypt. Right? So we came from Egypt, delivered from Egypt by the hand of the Most High. Moses now is bringing these laws, right, or reinstituting these laws to the children of Israel, making us to understand what we ought to do and what we ought not to do. You can't sleep with your mother, right? You can't sleep with your brother's wife. You can't eat pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp.
Right.
These are the clean and unclean beasts to eat. But these laws have been instituted since Adam. And I'm going to read one scripture here before we continue to bring that point out, right? So we're going to go straight up to Genesis chapter 4 and verse 7, right? And I'm going to read it, right? Now, Genesis chapter 4 and verse 7 is saying, if thou doest well, right? This is talking about Cain and Abel, right? If thou doest well, right, shall thou not be accepted, right? Because they had offerings to make to the Most High, and now the Most High is having a dialogue now, right, with Cain and Abel. And if thou doest well, doest not well, the scripture is saying, sin lieth at the door. And we just read and understand that sin is the transgression or the breaking of the law or breaking of the rules of God. So when you break the rules of God that God set, that is sin, right? So for the Most High to be mentioning or bringing out this, saying this to Cain, and if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, is going to show you that since in the book of Genesis, dealing with Cain and Abel, there were laws and rules to be followed, right, and laws were broken.
Right.
Even in the garden with Cain and Abel. And that was what you must understand, right? Right? I'll jump into one more scripture up in Genesis. We have Genesis 13 and 13. It's telling about the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And we understand and know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? The men of Sodom and Gomorrah, as the scripture saying, right, were wicked and sinners. And this is up in the book of Genesis, way before Moses. So when we're talking about the law, we ain't talking about something that has popped out of the sky from nowhere. The law have been established and instituted since Adam, right? And it's a tradition that the children of Israel carried on orally all the way down to Moses, where we start obtaining written records of our laws and our customs and our statutes and commandments. All right, so give me from the top again.
Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1.
Right.
And it shall come to pass,
yeah,
if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the Lord thy God.
Right, so if you hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, read on.
To observe and all his commandments.
Right, to observe and to do all his commandments.
Which I command thee this day.
Right.
That the Lord thy God set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Right, so if you observe and do all these commandments, the Most High is saying and is prophesying, who is going to be set on high above all nations of the earth. So the so-called black man is supposed to be set above, not equal to, not like, not similar to, but above all nations of the earth.
Right.
And any so-called black man that really understands how wicked this empire and this kingdom is, he will have no desire to be equal with his oppressor. Right. Because all your oppressor perpetually pushes day and night is unrighteousness and ungodliness. There is nothing righteous about your oppressor or your oppressor's laws and your oppressor's system and way of life. All right? That was the end of 28 and 1. Right? Give me 28 and 15 to what?
28 and 15.
To what? The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
Right?
For it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right. So the Most High is saying that if we don't observe to do all his commandments, and this is speaking to the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man. If we don't observe to do all these commandments, that there's a list of curses that is going to take the so-called black man, right? And when you read in Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 1, it's saying, these be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan, in the wilderness, in the plain over against the Red Sea, right? So these words are spoken not to the world, but these words are spoken to the entire nation of Israel,
Right.
which is a race of people, all right? The so-called blacks, native Indians, and Hispanic today, all right? That's what we must understand. That was the end of 15.
Okay.
All right, give me verse 68. And 68.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Right, so the Most High is saying, if we don't obey these laws, we are going to be brought into Egypt, which is bondage again. And same way we came out of Egypt, what we're going to be placed in, we're going to be placed into servitude again. But this time, it's going to be with what?
With ships.
We're going to come across in ships. And this was a prophecy that was prophesied about the transatlantic slave trade.
Right.
Right? Even the Northern Kingdom experienced this being transported in ships. A lot of the native Indians and so forth were taken and carried back to Spain and all these other places on ships. You understand? Right? Read on.
Okay. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
Right.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
What he said?
Ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
Right, so the scriptures are saying we are going to be sold to our enemies. And what happened? We were sold on the slave ships, and that is enough to make the so-called black man to understand that they were sold to a particular people. They were sold by the Africans, the native Africans. The Syrians built the ship with a big business contract,
right,
and sold to the white man. We were sold to our enemies.
Right.
Not just enemy, but enemies. The East Indians, the Chinese, and the Syrians. Read on.
For bondmen
For
and
what?
for bondmen.
Right, for bondmen, which means slave men. Read on.
And bondwomen.
And slave women. So the women did not escape this captivity, this slavery, or this hard bondage. They were in the fields working with the men day and night.
Right. While
they were still being raped, being lynched like the black man, the babies being cut out of their bellies, babies being dashed against stones, and I have records showing where they had to leave the babies in a trough while they were working in the field. And one of the stories that's showing here, when the women working in the field, right, rain break out, and they had the babies just going in a trough, and they had to run 3 miles to go back to get the train from the trough, and every child drowned. That is the heartache that the so-called black woman, native Indian man, and this native Indian woman, and Hispanic woman had to go through under the hands of the oppressors.
Right.
Under the hands of the white man. And we must know our history so we can reclaim our culture and come out of this captivity that we're in. All right? Read verse 40. That was one of it?
No,
all right, go ahead. Read on.
And no man shall buy you.
And no man shall do what?
And no man shall buy you.
The scripture saying that no man is going to buy us, which means take us out of this captivity. And there are many so-called black people that tried many revolutions, and all was unsuccessful. Because who is to take us out of this captivity? Our King Yahawashi, right? Which is Christ. That is why the scriptures keep prophesying about World War III. So it is high time that the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man learn about his history learn about his culture, and start getting himself right. When we say right, right towards the Most High.
Right.
Follow his laws, commandments, and statutes. Right? We have continual classes from Scripture Breakdown, our camp leader, Officer Galaman. On Sundays, we have brotherhood classes, we have history classes, we have law classes, Sabbath classes, Hebrew classes to restore the so-called black man to his culture.
Right.
Right? And it's high time that we wake up and start to embrace our culture before we get caught up in the destruction of World War III. All right? That was all on it? All right, give me verse 43.
Verse 43. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 43.
Right.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high.
Right. So the scriptures is saying the stranger, and that stranger is somebody that is not of your bloodline.
Right.
The people that is not Israelites, the Chinese, the East Indians, right? The Syrians. What are they going to do?
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high.
The stranger is going to get what? Above us. We were here before, and they're going to get above us very high. Because of the evil, wicked practices, and they're going to force and continually keep us in this position that we are. Because for other nations to thrive, what they must do? Subject another nation to prosper. All right, read on.
And thou shalt come down very low.
And we shall come down very low. Right? When you look at the so-called black man today, we have no economic power. We have no factories. We have no military might.
Right.
And that is why the scripture said we shall come down very low. All right? But it have a reason. You might read some more of the curses, but it have a reason for these curses coming out. Not only as a punishment, right? But somebody give me Deuteronomy 28 and 46. Right? It is important to notice. This is not just a list of curses that the so-called black man under. It have a key element within these curses, and it's in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 46. All right? Somebody read?
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
For a what?
For a sign.
So the Most High is saying, these curses is going to be upon this nation of people for a sign. And that is the main part that they want to catch here. How you're going to know who are the real Jews? Who are the curses in the Bible? The so-called black man, Native Indian man, and the Hispanic man fits these curses more than any other race of people on the planet.
Right.
That is how the so-called black man is going to know that he is an Israelite.
Right.
All right. It's high time that we wake up and know who we are according to the scriptures. Right. Somebody just jumped to verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore, thou shalt serve thine enemies.
Shall do what?
Serve thine enemies.
Right.
Which the Most High shall send against thee in hunger.
Shall send us, Salah, can read it again?
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Most High shall send against thee in hunger.
Right, for in hunger.
And in thirst.
Right, so this is the condition that the so-called black man went through during slavery and captivity, right? And even now, in hunger and in thirst, because we all know factories, as I mentioned before. Read on.
And in nakedness, and in want of all things.
Right, and in nakedness, no textile factories and so forth, and in want of all things. And this is a key element to understand also with this scripture. In all things that the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man need, we need to go to the oppressor or to the heathen to obtain it.
Right.
You understand? And these records brings out so much dynamics that even when the oppressors try to blame the so-called black man for crime and so forth, according to these scriptures, where the black man is going to get his drugs, where he's going to get his guns. Read scripture one more time. The end of the scripture.
And in want of all things.
In want of all things. This is not just good things. All things.
Right.
So when you look at the state of the so-called black man today, right? If the system, the economy, the government really wanted to stop crime, instead of blaming the ghetto, These scriptures are going to show you where everything in the ghetto comes from.
Right.
Shiploads of guns. Read it again.
And in want of all things.
In want of all things. So if the so-called black man get caught up in the system or the lifestyle of the oppressor and he wants drugs, he need to go to his oppressor. He need to go to the Chinese, to the Syrians, and to the East Indians to get drugs.
Right.
To get guns.
Right.
You understand? Any evil, there is where the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man have to go to obtain it. Because we go to the heathen for the want of all things. But Salakia, go ahead.
Just as they bring it all the
Right.
complex, just as they say all things.
That's right. It all things. And the scriptures make this so clear. Right? And we must understand that to gain all things in righteousness, what we need to do is get into the I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
Follow your black culture and your black heritage. So then you're going to be doing what? Now you're going to be embracing your dietary law.
Right.
They want to know you can't eat pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp. We went through this in several classes before. Right? Eating shellfish and causing a cholera pandemic.
Right.
Right? So what? You understand? Eating bats causing a pandemic on the earth.
Right.
You understand? These things you must understand. There are so many diseases, AIDS, cancer, gout, syphilis that is on the planet right now. And the nations refuse to see what is going on because of the pride. But it is high time that the black man pay attention to these things.
Right.
Everybody concerned about the coronavirus right now, right? But thousands of people dying, hundreds and thousands of people dying every day from punishments from the Most High, from breaking his laws.
Right.
Still to this day, when I look at the statistics of people dying from cholera, it's real high. But it's not as bad as before. That's what it is, the psychological place that we're reaching right now. It's death upon death, to where you're living in a system and a lifestyle of death where it becoming the norm. And the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man must know this is not your life. This is not your Garden of Eden. This is death. Because this, as the scriptures say, is the wages of sin.
Right.
The wages of sin is death. And this death was not designed for the so-called black man. This death that we're talking about is punishment that the Most High have set in place when they break his laws. This is not something that we're supposed to live in. This is hell. And to come out of this hell, the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man must turn back to his God. Hell is just a low condition, a low place, a low state. And right now, the white man, he's in heaven.
Right.
He's doing what he wants, living the life he wants to live. And when the corona hit, they run up on all the big bunkers in the far, far places and seclude themselves from society and wait now for the Grim Reaper to pass and kill out everybody. You understand? The so-called black man, say, they're telling you, the media now, they were on the front line. You understand? Then they're coming back and saying, hey, well, the so-called black man, the death rate high because you're on the front line. You, they're still using the so-called black man to hold up the white empire, to hold up all these heathenic businesses and factories and so forth that had the black man pumping in still. And it's time for the so-called black man to separate.
Right.
So when you hear something like this bust out, run your factory for yourself. You understand?
Right.
Run your hospitals for yourself. Because I standing up with my people.
Right.
I standing up with the so-called blacks, Native Indian, and Hispanics.
Right.
I standing up with the Lord's people.
Right.
And to understand this and learn this, you need to come and be taught by the real priests and prophets in the I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
You need to subscribe to the classes. I.S.U.P.K.com is the website. And learn more of your people, your culture, and your heritage. Understand through the I.S.U.P.K. what is real brotherhood and real sisterhood.
Right.
That is my partner. Understand the real depth of giving up your life for your people.
Right.
As the I.S.U.P.K. is doing even today. in the midst of the coronavirus, we still out here feeding the people and teaching the people to return to the Most High.
Right.
That we can rule this entire planet. You understand? Because it's high time that we come and we understand and get a grasp at these concepts according to the Bible and wash away white supremacy, wash away white doctrines, wash away white culture, hedonic customs, hedonic thought patterns, Egyptology, and all this foolishness. Satan, out and ra, rubbish. You ain't seeing none of them right now. All these best medicines, Sadie, this next one, East Indian customs, drink your pee. You understand what I'm saying? To survive this, that, and the other. When the corona reach, I ain't seen nobody drinking the pee. Unless the last that people drink, I think was some kind of alcohol or ethanol and die by the heat. So this coronavirus is revealing the priests and prophets of the Most High and exposing the lies of this empire. And that is what we must understand. Christians running around saying, I save. I save and sanctify. And these things are not according to the scriptures. You understand? Because you don't understand the history, you don't understand what the Bible is saying. Christ is saying he's coming to save you from your enemies in Luke chapter 1, verse 67. And all those that hate you.
Right.
And you running about saying, you save. You still have enemies. People still riding your back. They're still oppressing you. And that is what you don't understand. Thinking contrary to the scriptures because you're caught up in hedonic teachings.
That's right.
Right? So you thinking Michael and Gabriel and they had a war in heaven and they have a big fight. You understand? And God and Satan in a big battle. Because you know why your mind will bring that? Because of Christianity.
That's right.
Not knowing your culture, not knowing your history.
Right.
You understand? As I say that, somebody gave me is Revelation 12. Right? I'm going to touch a little bit on that. Right? From Revelation 12 from verse 7. I will read one time. All the way down to verse 10. So you start from 7. So what?
Okay. Book of Revelation, chapter 12 and verse 7.
Right.
And there was a war in heaven.
Right. So this is, Christians love this scripture. You understand what I'm saying? Because this scripture is like the blame scripture. If that a war in heaven and God fighting, Satan down here, so ain't nothing I can do. You know what I mean? The devil busy. But that is not according to the scriptures, right? Read it again.
The book of Revelation, chapter 12 and verse 7. And there was a war in heaven.
Right.
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Right. And this scripture here, right, is talking about there was a war in heaven. And the scriptures talk about different heavens, right? About 4 heavens. That is the air space. There was a war in the heavens. And Michael and his angels, the angels of the Most High, did what?
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Fought against the dragon, right? Which is our number one oppressor, the so-called white man.
Right.
That great dragon. You understand? If you're watching the movies, you're going to see airplanes flying and dropping bombs and blowing up places. That is how the white man have elevated himself to be this great dragon.
Right.
Just to fly and destroy an entire city. You understand? He did that to the Japanese, right? And I believe in World War I or II and destroyed the entire country.
Right.
You understand? What was the war again? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You understand? That is the great dragon. Read on.
And the dragon fought and his angels.
And the dragon fought and his angels. So the dragon fighting with the angels. That is all them that plug into that whole military system.
Right.
We fighting to defend the country. Great is America. Read on.
Verse 8. And prevailed not.
And did what?
And prevailed not.
And this is a prophecy. And they're going to see why this is a prophecy. But the scriptures say that the dragon did not prevail, fighting against the angels of the Most High. That is why people don't understand here in Trump setting up a space force and so forth. Because they understand our records. They know what is going to go down. They know who you are, so-called black man. They know that your power is going to return to fight for you.
Right.
But you must get yourself in place and in line. There must be a falling away first. that white man must be exposed as the deceiver on the planet.
Right.
Right, read on.
Kanakan. Neither was their place found anymore in heaven.
Right, so there was no place for the white man to rule again. No more heaven. That big boy status that I had, as the scripture say, shame shall cover thee. No, you get brought down. Read on.
Kanakan, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent.
Right, so the scripture saying that great dragon was cast out. That old serpent. So the lost the seat of power. That great America destroyed, mash up. You understand what I'm saying? That old serpent. That same double-tongued slithery way deceiving even Eve. That same spirit on the white man is deceiving the planet right now today.
Right.
All right, read on.
Kanakan. Called the devil.
Call who?
Called the devil.
Right, call the devil. Right, and we're going to see that in other scriptures in Isaiah 14. We may go into it according to time to show you that the scriptures are talking about the devil and Satan working after the spirit of Satan is talking about a race of people. Everything he touches and does is killing, stealing, and destroying from the beginning of time till now.
Right.
And these heathen nations know that. He stole from them, destroyed them, and killed them also. And they still help the so-called white man kill us, the chosen of the Most High. Read on.
Kanakan. And Satan.
Right.
Which deceiveth the whole world.
Which did what?
Which deceiveth the whole world.
Right, I'm bringing up this sign again. And deceive the whole world by presenting himself as God. And also as the real Jews, according to the Bible. He presented himself as the real Jews and as God. But that is not according to scripture, as we went through earlier. Read on.
Kanakan. He was cast out into the earth.
Read on.
And his angels were cast out with him.
Right, and his angels were cast out to them. Loss is for all these Christian leaders and teachers and these great army lieutenants and so forth. Everybody cast down. This wicked empire fall. Right? Read on.
Verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven.
Right, and this is what we have to pay attention to. Because this is not something that passed as the scripture, as Christians teach. This is something to come. Because now, John is saying, right, read on, read it again.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven.
Right.
Now is come salvation.
Now is what?
Now is come salvation.
Now is come salvation. After this war, then there is the salvation of the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man. So this great fight and this war in heaven, that ain't gone yet. Because after that fight, they're going to be hearing what again?
Now is come salvation.
Now is come salvation. When they look, it's only going to be having chariots of it.
Right.
Not all these Apache helicopters and so forth.
Right.
Everything is going to be destroyed. And we now know this is our salvation. Our enemies have been destroyed. Let's read the rest side.
And strength and kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ.
Right, and the power of his Christ. Right, and that is what the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man must understand. Get into your history, get into your culture, get into your records, so that you will be able to understand and differentiate. When you read something within the scriptures, you're going to know if this has passed or this is something that is to come. Stop running around and saying you're saved, so-called black man. Come out of these hidden thought patterns, right, and foolishness, right? We now are preparing for our salvation. You understand? Right? Let me just touch on the oppressor before we pull out. Somebody give me Isaiah 14. Give me verse 1 and 2 first, and somebody hold Isaiah 14, 12, and 17. So what? I want first here. First Isaiah 14, chapter 1 and 2.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1.
Right.
For the Most High will have mercy on Jacob.
What he will do?
Have mercy on Jacob.
Right, he will have mercy on Jacob. Right, the offspring, the children, the seed of Jacob. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac, right, made Jacob. But we have to understand with the scripture, Abraham had other sons. All families of the earth did not spring through the loins of Abraham. So it should not be confused with this. And the promise was given to that line, Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Right? Read on.
And will yet choose Israel.
And will yet do what?
Choose Israel.
And will yet choose Israel. Go ahead.
And set them in their own land.
Right? And he will set Israel in their own land. Read on.
And the strangers shall be joined with them.
Right. So he's saying the strangers, the heathen, right? They will be joined with them. Read on.
And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
Right. Read on.
Verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them.
Right. And the house of Israel shall possess them. That is the so-called black man, shall possess the heathen. Read on.
In the land of the Most High.
Right.
For servants and handmaids.
Right. So the so-called black man, native Indian man, Hispanic man shall hold the heathenic nations, right, in possession for servants and for handmaids in our land. You're not seeing that today. So you know these things are prophecies to come.
Right.
These things never happened in the future, in the past. Salakia, read on.
And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were.
Right. And the so-called black man, he is going to take them captive. Whose captives they were. So we were captives, we were kidnapped by the so-called white man, by the Africans, and also by the Arabs, and even under captivity within the other nations. We know is going to take them into captivity according to the prophecy of Scripture. That was all unto. Read on.
And they shall rule over their oppressors.
And we shall do what?
Rule over their oppressors.
And we shall rule over our oppressors. So this is not going to slide. The Most High didn't see the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man get lynched, right? Women get raped, men get raped. You understand? All this servitude, he builds this empire and still receives nothing from it. He's not going to let that slide.
Right.
You understand? He's saying, and we shall rule over our oppressors. We shall obtain our rulership once again on the planet. Right? Jump down to verse 12, Salakia.
Verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven?
Right.
O Lucifer, son of the morning.
Right. So now the scriptures are saying, how art thou fallen, O Lucifer, son of the morning. Right? So now we're going to be bringing out to make it more clear who the devil is. Right? According to the scriptures. And the word devil just means deceiver.
Right.
Right? Slanderer. That is what we must understand. You need to get away from these Christian fables. Right? Read from the top again.
The book of Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 12.
Right.
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?
Right. So you're talking about the white man here being in this high place, in this high seat. Read on.
Son of the morning.
Son of the morning. Read on.
How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations.
Which didst what?
Weaken the nations.
Which didst weaken the nations. I'll bring out in the classes before and even tonight, the so-called white man, he weakened the nations. Right? He oppressed the so-called blacks, native Indian, Hispanic, the China, Israel. He weakened the nation. He weakened the East Indians. He weakened the Chinese. He weakened the Syrians. He weakened the Africans. What's the state of Africa right now? You understand? The white man stripped everybody. And all these oppressors still want to oppress the so-called black man, the real children of God. Read on.
For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
Right. So the white man saying in the heart all the time, I will ascend into heaven. You want the high seat, you want to go up in stars, rocket, spaceship, and so forth, Air Force. You want to run things. You want to run the world. Read on.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High.
Right. Read on.
I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation.
Right. So he's saying, sitting down, he's saying, he's going to sit on the mount of the congregation. He's going to sit in rulership, right? Above all the nations on the earth. Read on.
In the sides of the north.
In the sides of the north, which is referring to America, Babylon the Great. Read on.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds.
Right.
I will be like the Most High.
Right. So the oppressor, he wants to be like the Most High. He want to run this planet. Right? And read on.
Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell.
What the scriptures are saying?
Thou shalt be brought down to hell.
The scriptures are saying, yet, although you planning that, you are going to be brought down into hell, into a low condition, or into a low place. You're going to be taken off of your heavenly seat, right? Or your seat of power. Read on.
To the sides of the pit.
To the sides of the pit. Read on.
They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee.
So now, the earth going to start to figure out now, wait now, what really going on here? We started to investigate what's going on. Read on.
And consider thee, saying.
Saying what? Let's start here. Read it again.
And consider thee.
And we're going to be considering this oppression, saying what?
Saying, is this the man?
Is this the what?
Is this the man?
Is this the what?
Is this the man?
Is this the man? That's what the scripture is saying. We now looking at saying, but wait now. This devil is a man. Is this the man? Read on.
That made the earth to tremble.
That made the earth to tremble. All these atomic bomb, military might, and all this power that the so-called white man demonstrated for all these years, we watching now and realizing, wait now, this is the man brought down to nothing. You understand? By the power of our King, Yahweh. Read on.
That did shake kingdoms.
That did do what?
Shake kingdoms.
The white man shook kingdoms. Read on.
That made the world as a wilderness.
That made the world as a what?
Wilderness.
Made the world as a wilderness. The white man at that time. That scripture is talking about when the white man passed through a zone. When a thief go to thief, he go thief and he go leave back at his son. He taking everything and more.
Right.
You understand? When he come in your zone, he ain't taking your resources. He want to take your airspace too.
Right.
Take your land. Take your sea. If there was a small island on the side of your country, he want that small island to set up a base. You understand? That is the nature of the oppressor. To make the place dark and desolate. Read on.
And destroy the cities thereof.
Right.
That open not the houses of his prisoners.
And open not the houses of his prisoners. So-called black people, Native Indian, and Hispanic, lock up all over by the heap, by the load, millions, right? I don't go and get this statistics talk, but it's really going into the amount of black people that are locked up in American prisons is more with all the other prisons combined worldwide. That is the perpetual hatred that the oppressor or the white man has for the so-called black man, Native Indian man, and Hispanic man, right? And we don't even realize that. You understand what I'm saying? That you need to know your history to understand what's going on in the scriptures. This is a war, you understand, between Jacob and Esau that's still continuing to this day.
Right.
And we're going to go into more things in the histories of the scriptures to make the so-called black man understand what's going on. Let me just touch Obadiah 1 and 10, and somebody who would second Ezra 6 and 9, and I think we will wrap it up with that. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 10. Amen. Oh, yeah.
Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall come cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Read it one more time.
Obadiah chapter 1 verse 10.
Right.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob.
So now the scriptures are saying, for the violence, right, that Esau have done to his brother Jacob, what the scriptures are saying going to happen?
Shame shall cover thee.
Shame is going to cover the so-called white man because of his perpetual and continual hatred towards what was at that time his brother because of the same mother. But the scripture said we are of two separate or two different nations and also two different manner of people. But the scriptures are saying shame is going to cover him because of the hatred that he has for his brother. That was all on it.
And thou shalt be cut off forever.
Read it again.
And thou shalt be cut off forever.
And this great ruler over America today, he is going to be cut off forever.
Right.
And what is taking place right now is a power struggle on righteousness versus righteousness.
Right.
And the so-called black man must step up get into the I.S.U.P.K, build your nation, build your family, right? Grow the brotherhood, grow the sisterhood, establish this righteousness on the earth. Because all the Israelite nations doing is riding wherever it have power.
Right.
The white man doing this, everybody jump on that bandwagon because it's a power struggle. You understand? Power, oil, greed. You understand? That's just the nature of the heathen. They're running with the white man running right now because he in power. You understand? Give me 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9.
Okay. Book of 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9.
Right.
For Esau is the end of the world.
Esau is what?
For Esau is the end of the world.
So the scriptures is saying that Esau, he is the end of the world. And the word world means age or society.
Right.
When he is in rulership, that is the signal that is the end of this society. Right? Read on.
Okay. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
And what?
And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
And Jacob, the so-called black man, native Indian man, and Hispanic man, when that happens, when we come in power, it's going to be the beginning of a new society.
Right.
A society where there are laws, where there are rules, where there are regulations. Right? That society is where the Most High is going to work through the so-called black man, right, and pour out his spirit on all flesh. So the so-called black man is going to dominate the planet and dominate society with his laws, with his customs, with his ways, with his feast days, and so forth. Right? Because it's high time that we start knowing our history, our culture, get back through brotherhood, through sisterhood, get into the I.S.U.P.K, right, and defend your nation under commanding General YAHANNA. All right, and with that, we'll pass the class over to no, that is Salakia, right? And with that, we'll pass the class over to Priest and Officer Michael.
This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcement. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or a sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to the brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21 and Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation. Right? The upcoming Holy Convocation was supposed to be the 51st annual Passover. Right? But due to the corona pandemic, we will wait on an update from our commanding General YAHANNA on the date for the official date for the Passover. Remind Akyong and Aquafiong to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If your brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he's to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirt, like pants, like headbands or scarf. And with that, you see, I imagine. We're going to face the east. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa. Shabbat Shemaya. Kodash. Aya. Shamka. Yahweh. Malakwatka. Taba'a. Ratazaka.
Aya,
Aya,
Aisha,
Aisha,
Barataza,
Barataza,
Kawa,
Kawa,
Aya,
Aya,
Mashemaya,
Mashemaya,
Natan Nanawa,
Natan Nanawa,
Lakam, Kal,
Kal,
Yawam,
Yawam,
Wasalak Nawa,
Wasalak Nawa,
Kawawat Nawa,
Kawawat Nawa,
Kasalak Nawa,
Kasalak Nawa,
Kawawat Nawa,
Kawawat Nawa,
Wala'a,
Wala'a,
Tabia Nawa,
Tabia Nawa,
Wanasaya One,
Wanasaya One,
Bal,
Bal,
our Shina,
Ayan,
Ayan, Rai,
Kaya,
Laka,
Laka,
Amalakwa,
Amalakwa,
Mahala, Wataparat,
Wataparat,
Aman.
Aman.
What we said in the English was our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name.
Yahweh, thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
In earth, as it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day.
Give us this day
our daily bread.
our daily bread.
And forgive us.
And forgive us
our debts.
our debts.
As we forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not.
Lead us not
into temptation.
But
deliver us.
deliver us
from evil.
For evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
Thine is the kingdom.
And the power.
And the power.
And the glory.
And the glory.
Forever.
So be it.
This is the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Wa Yahushai.
Wa Yahushai.
Wa Makala.
Wa Makala.
Wa Alahayim.
Wa Alahayim.
Matazabia.
Matazabia.
Ala Wap Yahanna.
Ala Wap Yahanna.
Ha Ala Wapiyam.
Ha Ala Wapiyam.
Ha Saranyam.
Ha Saranyam.
Ha Kwatazal Yanyam.
Ha Kwatazal Yanyam.
Ha Kayal Yalyam.
Kayal Yalyam.
Wa Akwapiyam.
Wa Akwapiyam.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Wa Hashem.
Wa Hashem.
Yahushai.
Yahushai.
Wada Aman.
Wada Aman.
In the English, bless you, Yahweh.
Bless you, Yahweh.
And Yahushai.
And Yahushai.
And Michael.
And Michael.
And the angel.
And the angel.
Commanding General Yahanna.
Commanding General Yahanna.
Generals.
Generals.
Captain. Officer.
Troopers.
And the sister.
And the sister.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahushai.
Name of Yahushai.
Thank you. So be it.
So be it.
When you say the hakak or the power in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Babakasha, Natan Nanawa, Hakak, Narapa, Kal Makala, Kal Marawa, Hakak, Lataha, Amatazaria, Hakak, Hakwayam, Amatayam, Hakak, Ay Rakawat, Atamayala, Lagarashan, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Tawala Aman. In the English, Yahweh. In the name of Yahushai.
In the name of Yahushai.
Please give us the power.
Please give us the power.
Power to heal.
The power to heal.
All manner of sickness.
All manner of sickness.
And all manner of disease.
All manner of disease.
The power to cleanse the leper.
The power to cleanse the leper.
The power to raise the dead.
The power to raise the dead.
The power against unclean spirits.
The power against unclean spirits. Cast them out.
In the name of Yahushai.
In the name of Yahushai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
Right. Blessed are you, Yahweh.
Blessed are you, Yahweh.
King of heaven and earth.
King of heaven and earth.
And all things living.
And all things living.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahushai.
In the name of Yahushai.
Listen to us now.
Listen to us now.
Send evils and curses.
Send evils and curses.
And punishment and destruction.
And punishment and destruction.
To the heathen.
To the heathen.
That speak against us.
That speak against us.
Thy prophets.
Thy prophets.
The teachers.
The
princes.
And
the priests.
And the priests.
The Israelite brothers. And the school.
And the school.
Send evils and curses.
Send evils and curses.
And punishment and destruction.
And punishment and destruction.
To the heathen. And shake loose. The treasure. Of the rich of Israel. That refuse. To give to the school. Force their riches. To enter into thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the Edomites. And the nation. And the drug dealers. The court system. The prison system. Planned Parenthood. All the governments of our enemies. Amalek synagogues and armies. Roman Catholic Church. The Pope. Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, Skinheads, Fuzzy Komotas, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space program, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, Open up the internet.
Open up the internet.
And the airwaves.
And the airwaves.
The cable access channel.
Cable access channel.
And the radio channel.
And the radio channel.
Convict the spirit.
Convict the spirits
of any of thy people.
of any of thy people
that seek to stop us.
that seek to stop us
And bring swift destruction.
and bring swift destruction
to all the heathen.
to all the
that
heathen
stand in the way.
that stand in the way.
Or try to stop
Or
us.
try to stop us
from broadcasting your
from
words.
broadcasting your words
throughout the planet.
throughout the planet.
Let loose all the plagues.
Let loose all the plagues.
Let loose all the
Let
plagues.
loose all the plagues.
Let loose all the plagues.
Let loose all the plagues.
Cause them to go to and fro.
Cause them to go to and fro
through the earth.
through the earth
And consume them.
and consume them.
Let the plagues.
Let the plagues
shake the house of the thief.
shake the house of the thief
And the murderer.
and the murderer.
Let Yahawashi.
Let Yahawashi,
Michael and Gabriel.
and Gabriel
Come down with the flying saucer.
come down with the flying saucer
And punish all the heathen.
and punish all the heathen
And come up
against us
as we speak thy word.
as we speak thy word.
Cause it to be known by all.
Cause it to be known by all
That is the angel.
that it is the angels
that have done it.
that have done it.
Cause it to be spread.
Cause it to be spread
through the media.
through the media,
Through the whole world.
through the whole world.
Cause them to shake at thy coming.
Cause them to shake at thy coming.
In the name of Yahawashi.
In the name of Yahawashi.
Thank you always.
Thank you always.
So be it.
So be it. We're going to say the blessed Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem,
Ba'ashem,
Yahawashi,
Yahawashi,
Barak Lanawa,
Barak Lanawa,
YAHANNA,
YAHANNA,
Wabayam,
Wabayam,
Superior,
Superior,
Barak,
Barak,
Rapa,
Rapa,
Magan,
Magan,
Commanding General Yahanna.
Commanding General
General.
Generals,
Captains.
Captains,
Officers.
Troopers,
Sisters.
Children.
Destroyer of
the
Israel.
destroyer of Israel.
Brothers and sisters fighting to come to the truth.
Brothers and sisters fighting to come to the truth.
To the nation of
To
Israel.
the nation of Israel.
Itisha.
Itisha,
Tazapa.
Tazapa,
Patazar.
Yapa,
Tamar.
Commanding General Yahanna.
Commanding General Yahanna.
General,
Captain,
officers,
Troopers,
sisters,
Children,
all the destroyed of Israel,
all the destroyed of Israel,
Kayalona,
Kayalona,
Barak Napash,
Shariah,
Kintian family,
Kintian family,
Oselan family,
Oselan family,
Ikoto family,
Ikoto family,
Philip family,
Philip family,
Commanding General Yahanna.
Commanding General Yahanna,
All the generals, captains, officers, troopers, right? All those fighting to come into the truth.
all those fighting to come to the truth.
Shamka, Kaya, Yapa, Para. All right, Officer Bariat and family.
Officer Bariat and family.
Officer Yakar and family.
Officer Yakar and family.
Officer Tazawo and family.
Officer Tazawo and family.
Osel and family.
Osel and family.
Kinti and family.
Kinti and family. Commanding General Yahanna.
Commanding General Yahanna.
Generals, captains, the
officers,
troopers, sisters, children, all the destroyed of Israel,
all the destroyed of Israel,
all those fighting to come to the truth,
all those fighting to come to the truth.
Officer Galawan and family,
Officer Galawan and family,
the Busby family, Alexis family, John family, the Koto family,
all the brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K, all the brothers and sisters fighting for the I.S.U.P.K, Ron family, Francois family, Daniela, Zion, Wesleyan, Khadijah, Nima, Ashida, Angel, Bahashem, Yahawashi,
to Wada Aman.
What we just said in the English was Lord, in the name of Yahawashi,
in the name of Yahawashi,
bless us, and Israel, and the school, bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones, in the name of Yahawashi,
In the name of Yahawashi.
So be it.
Sir, men of Israel, let's give the teacher a one courtesy salute. Amazim Shabbat, Amazim, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi Barakatah.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi Barakatah.
Yad Matah. Men of Israel, let's give the sisters online a one courtesy salute. Amazim Shabbat, Amazim, Barak, Yahweh Shema Elatan Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Yad Matah. Class dismissed.